So those who are willing and able, if you will, please stand and join us in prayer and pledge allegiance, please. Heavenly Father, dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity once again to come before you, Lord, as the Martin County Water and Sanitation Board, Lord. We pray your wisdom over this board tonight, Lord, and we pray, Lord, that you have a hedge of protection around our utility workers and continue to go with us and keep us. And we lift you up and give you all the praise and glory tonight, Lord, for all the blessings that you've bestowed upon us and are going to bestow upon us. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to open the Martin County Water District Board meeting. Call the meeting to order. Board members, you received your packets, and in those packets were meeting minutes from our last regular scheduled meeting along with the special meeting minutes. So with that, is there any questions on those minutes? And if not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, Todd, do you want to review the financials, please?
Yes, so, total cash on hand of $260,458.62. Total current assets of $723,830.30. Net property, plant, and equipment of $18,038,922.80, which brings the total assets to $18,842,395.42. On 4A2, total current liabilities of $1,098,224.55. Total long-term debt of $2,632,475.35. Brings the district's total liabilities and district's equity to $18,842,395.42. On page 4A3, the monthly statements, total operating revenues for the month of April were $250,799, which is $25,626 less than what was budgeted. Primarily that's due to the meters project not being complete, and also doesn't calculate the new rate for the Prestonsburg rate check is not included in this total, which was $26,000, so that would bring it back up to budgeted amount.
Yep. And so next financial reporting, we'll see all that?
Yes. Correct. Total operating expenses for the month were $229,487, which is $16,371 less than what was budgeted. On 4A4, you see we bill total customers of 3,333 for a total gallons of 13,296,110 gallons, for a total billing charges of $258,598.49. End of month receivables of $352,653.65. And after all total deposits, disbursements, the ending month balance was $147,121.54. 485, again, just shows that beginning balance and ending balance, the same. Total cash investments of $712,604.96, deposits of $767,657.78, and an ending balance of $339,909.94.
And if the board's not aware, the reason why you see significant increase and decrease or what's being paid out, that's being driven by the meter change out, right?
Correct.
Money's coming in and money's going out. Okay.
That's it for the treasury report.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Other financials, Todd?
Yeah, 4B1, it shows the, total billed revenue of $224,095. And it also shows at the bottom of it, even though the revenue was down from what we budgeted for the month, you can see that it's still up from this time last year. so it's still over 10,000 less than what was this time last year, with 31 less customers. So that shows that the meters that we are putting around are starting to show an increase, we just don't have the total count yet to make that impact.
Yep.
4B2 shows the, water county debt graph, and 4B3 shows the total. See, the treasurer's report.
And what's ODWR, that spike going from February to March, that was the over budget items on the chemicals and, maintenance.
Yeah, that's your 2024 overs, and then your 1 month past due on your, invoices.
Okay. All right. Okay. So would I have a motion to consider for approve the other financials?
I'll make the motion to approve the other financials.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, review, consideration, approve 2024 audit.
Yeah, so the audit is attached, it is no different than, there wasn't nothing changed from the draft copy that you received. This is just your final report that you need for all your, financial information.
But one thing it is new to it is the compliance report, is that not correct?
Correct.
In the compliance findings, board members, I highly, recommend that we, if you haven't done so, please take the time and read those. There's condition, cause, and effect for each criteria. And, for someone that doesn't know the direction we're headed, and they read that for face value, it could cause them pause or concern. But there's some underlying things that they talk about further on in the document that, helps explain it. But please take the time and read that. I've read it. I think no issue with it. Is there any discussions or talking points around the audit or compliance?
I had a question on that last finding about the debt service coverage percentage. It talked about us not meeting that requirement, but it didn't specifically name on that page what our actual debt service coverage percentage was. Do we know where we fell on that?
I don't know the percentage in my head, I'll get you that answer, but, the reason it failed is because you just don't have enough revenue coming in to meet it, but I don't know the percentage, I'll get it to you.
Right, but if it was within 2 or 3 points, then that tells a different story than if we were 20 or 30 points away from
Correct.
it. So,
That's a good question. So,
call that out.
in the record, we make an action item to follow up with an email to the board members addressing that question. All right. But I want to remind the board members that when we filed with PSC in December for our financials and our recommendations, we recommended no rate increase in the measures we were taking to address, the cost concerns, whether it be raw water intake costs, revenue side, those types of things. Okay.
You need a motion to approve the,
Need a motion to approve the 2024 audit.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Review and consideration to approve bills.
Yeah, 5A1 shows the list of bills, big one to point out is number 21 is Boca Enterprises. That is for the emergency line relocation that we just had to do on Route 3 during this last flooding event.
Has that been submitted to Kentucky Emergency Management for repayment?
No, that's not been declared a disaster as of yet.
By the state, but not by the federal.
The state has it, but it's not a federal.
Right, but for Kentucky
Yes,
Emergency
that
Management
has been included in the list of items that we sent to them.
for the state. Has there been any discussions with the state on that specific?
Not up to date, no.
Of the bills that we're seeing for consideration, which of these is FEMA agreed to pay? Any of these?
On this list,
And if there's any carryover from the February storm?
no, but when we get down to that, I do have a spreadsheet here that shows what we submitted and what we're expected to receive return. It's not included in the packet. I didn't have all the information. But I do
Okay.
have a sheet to pass out.
Okay, well, we'll get to that, we'll cover, because that's one of the concerns I have is how much are we being reimbursed by FEMA for the February storm? And how much can we expect the state to reimburse us for the April 4th Friday storm?
It's typically 12%.
12% of what they reimburse?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
On the bills for consideration, was the, KCO line of credit payment included on this list?
it's not in this list, but it needs to be in this list for approval to be paid,
That's in the packet, I think it's on 9C-4, there's a copy of that invoice, so if we would like to include that with this list, we may need to make that as an addition.
yeah, so can we not include that in this list and go ahead and approve that as part of this list?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, you make your motions that include that.
Yeah. yeah, let's please do, because we have that commitment with the fiscal court to pay the interest on that FEMA emergency generator, loan, so that we can move forward getting our emergency generators. So do I have a motion to approve to pay these bills and include the KCO interest loan? And that was $5,673, something like that?
$5,725.34.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay. All right. Legal, Brian.
Let's see. I ran off with the wrong notebook, so I can't tell you what I've been doing. I apologize, I've been awful busy on your behalf, but
Yeah.
it's hard to nail down what I've been doing, there's been so much. But working on the Kathy Fletcher thing, the KIA report, and a couple of other things that escape me right now. Other than that, the Kathy Fletcher issue, I think we're gonna go into executive session, later on in the meeting, and we'll probably need to take up an issue relative to that and that matter. That's really all I have at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. So with that, operations. Operations report.
Yeah, on 7A1, and under administrative, we submitted project profiles and estimates to FEMA for the following projects: Maple Street water line repair, 292 booster pump station, and Yellow Creek water line repair. I believe there's a section for Todd to kind of go into those in a little bit. Category B, temporary measures including labor and equipment use is complete. Wanted to give a thanks to the Turkey Fire Department for allowing us to, and helping us get the ramp sprayed off over the intake. The Southern Flow SCADA computer at the water plant crashed, and, we've been working with the company to use the program on the existing computer, and the new computer is needed, which I've provided in here, the different options that we have.
So when this, and for those who don't know what the SCADA system is, it's how a human interfaces with all the machines and all the instrumentation, so you can control everything. So you flip everything into manual, and you control everything in manual until you get the system back up. And that's,
Actually, we had a spare computer at the sewer plant that we got, and, they logged in over the weekend remotely and installed a temporary version until we can get a full version.
Okay.
Water treatment, April average is 1.306, and we're currently averaging 1.30 million gallons daily. We're temporarily using a transfer pump on top of the tube settlers on unit 2 clarifier until we get that replaced, to try to keep so much carryover happening on that unit. We started feeding copper to help prevent the algae growth on the weirs, and we changed both high service pump oil in both high service pumps.
I want to point out real quick, as he's going through that, when we put that transfer pump in on top of the slush to move that, we have seen some decent results. I mean, it's dropped our NTU on the top of our filter by about a half a NTU, so it's working to the best that we would hope that
you're still a couple months away from having the parts?
Or sometime in June is when we was told the main bearing would get here.
Okay. All right, because board members, this is to clarify that we approved last board meeting, regular meeting to buy the parts. And then we're gonna wait for the parts to come in and look at our financials to then authorize the labor piece of it. But the problem is, if you can't get, if the rake's not working and you're not getting the sediment, the solids out the bottom of the clarifier, then it affects water quality, because they wanna rise with the water. And that's the problem, so. Just keep that temporary measure in place until we get the parts to get it fixed.
And one other thing to note out, when he's talking about that SCADA computer too, that is also one of the items that we have had in the last two funding requests to, Big Sandy to include with remaining funds that we have, and, so we're just waiting for that matching fund. But I don't know how long we can go waiting on that without making a purchase.
Yeah, and I don't wanna get ahead of us here, but have you heard from Big Sandy yet specific to KIA matching?
I have not, I tried it Thursday, Friday, and again today.
Okay. All right,
Alright, water distribution, leak detection program identified 12 new leaks in April. We fixed a total of 39 leaks throughout the system, so it was a really busy month in April for us. Estimated 3.9 million gallons of loss that we fixed. We replaced a sump pump in Buffalo Horn, relocated a meter pit at 5284 Turkey Creek at the request of the customer and at the expense of the customer. We dug a main and reconnected a tap for 3839 Rockcastle Road, installed a new tap at 105 Jackson Road, located a meter at 525 East Main Street. Previously, customer had been receiving a minimum bill. We installed a new meter and node there, and we completed a tap at 3306 Turkey Creek. Here's your chart that we've been putting on here to show you, where we're sitting at going out to the distribution system per month and what our current is. 7A3 shows your plant operation. Ran 3,815 lab tests, and everything, the MOR, all was good as far as quality and everything goes. We treated 40,206,000 raw water, and 39,433,000 went out to the system, with a total water metered gallons of 13,296,000. Water quality analysis, you have 10 routines that all passed, 14 specials, which is your boil waters that passed. Fluoride samples, fluorine distribution samples. 7A4 is your customer service requests and work orders.
what's current water level in the reservoir?
Still over the third string right now.
Still over the third string?
It has gone down a little bit, starting to. But it is still holding over top of the third string, so, which is still good.
Yeah.
7A5 is your full leak list of those, leaks that we had mentioned. 7A6 is your, graph of all the leaks throughout the county. As you can tell, they're kind of scattered across the entire county. 7A7, under our repairs, sitting at 69,794 out of the 100,000 on our repair cap, bringing us to 70% through March of 25, and 32,866 out of 110, bringing us to 30% for chemical expenses.
Okay, so back on the maintenance, that 45,000 from Boca for that emergency repair, that's included in that 51,000 and change? No.
No, it's not.
So this 51,626, so we've spent 103% of our maintenance budget already, and we're not even 50% into the year.
Right, through into March. That was during the.
Quarter one.
That's
That's just the first quarter.
quarter one.
Yeah. So we're at a rate we're gonna spend 4 times our budget. At the rate we're going.
A big portion of that come from all this flooding and things, but
Yeah, so, guys, this board needs to know, need to see a breakdown of what are we gonna get back from FEMA on money we spend.
Yeah, talk about that.
Okay,
And insurance too? Didn't you say we got some insurance money?
Yeah, but I don't have the insurance information. They requested some data today, but I don't have any totals or nothing from them yet.
yeah, we need to see, even if it's a forecast, you know, a forecast of, this is what we're gonna get, this is what we're forecasting from FEMA, this is what we're forecasting from insurance, this is what we're forecasting from Kentucky Emergency Management, from the state. And then sum that up, then how does that compare to our cost? Pass them down. Since we're on the subject, we might as well go there, because it's I mean, I'm seeing this and it's got me concerned. These are all the same. Okay.
So it's broken down by project there. As you can see, the first one is the emergency protective measures, and that is for all the labor and equipment and everything that, was used for the emergency. So the number in red is what is expected number to receive back after it's right now. It's in the last step, it's sitting in the insurance, portion of the FEMA. So after that is, then my understanding is after that's approved, then it would go to disbursement.
And does anybody give you a timeline?
I mean, I've asked that several times, and they keep saying that they've seen them go as quick as 30 days, as long as 6 months, so.
Okay, so 77,521 is what we're expecting to receive back on what we've spent of 89,104.
Yep. And the second line item there is the main line repairs. That is for the Maple Street, the Yellow Creek repairs. So that project is complete, so therefore we are at the phase where we can get reimbursed. So based off the way they did, it's a 75-25 split for the federal, and then the state kicks in 12% match on top of that. So out of the 16,500 that we estimated we spent there, we're expecting to get 14,355 of that back. And the remaining ones here are projects that have not been completed, so therefore they cannot be sent for the final approval through FEMA. But on there is the money that we spent to date on those projects. And it also shows that we'll be able to get that money back once these projects are approved at that 75-25 split.
Okay, and then this doesn't include insurance, and if insurance kicks in, then these numbers go down.
Correct. But they'll go down the exact amount the insurance provides.
You know, Okay.
Is it possible the insurance will provide more than the gap, the 90,000?
No, I would say not, because the insurance is not going to cover all these locations, because some of them didn't have flood insurance. And when the insurance came out, they inspected 4 sites that are, they said had coverage from the flood, the rest of them they're not.
If they're in the floodplain, they do not. If they're out of the floodplain, they do have insurance.
Do we know which 4 they said that they would?
Yeah, it's 292 pump station,
Okay.
Riverside lift station, IGA lift station, and the INS treatment plant.
292 Riverside Lift Station and one
IGA lift station and the
INS
INS treatment plant.
Those are insurance coverable.
They are covered by flood insurance.
Budget for that increase next year.
Okay.
So like I said, the 77,521 and the 14,355 is amounts that we are expecting to receive back in the near future. I don't know when that is.
Near future being, expecting sometime in June or July, is that near future?
I'm not-
60 days?
I
You don't know?
say yes.
30 to 180 days.
Okay.
I mean, once it's going in there, it's going through, I mean, it's went through like 6 approvals already. I mean, they seem to be going through them pretty quick, but I don't know how long it'll take to get out of this last one.
Okay.
6 approvals. Bureaucracy, it's one of the things.
All right. So that answers that question, because I was curious to see from the financials, what can we expect back from our expenses, what we paid out? Cause in my mind, that's leveling the budget, right? We're spending money, but we're gonna get reimbursed money, so it goes back to revenue for the budgets it came out of. Okay. All right, so chemical expenses, I think is where you left off.
Yeah, chemical setting at 30% through March. 7A8 through 7A10 are your, monthly transactions for those accounts. One of those transactions, that hit the distribution, all pump service and sales, that was actually an invoice that was from last year that was held, until we could negotiate, the labor rates that they were trying to charge us on those. Once we got those negotiated, that's when we paid them, and this is when it hits now.
Okay.
So I can think of to make note of on that. 7B1 through 718 is your MOR, like I mentioned before, no issues there. 7C is your monthly water loss report. Water loss coming in at 54.14%.
That is about a percentage higher than last month, but as he noted earlier, we prepared 39 leaves in the month, so.
Yeah.
You have that many, sometimes you're playing catch up.
Right. Okay.
Okay. 7D1 through 7D9 are your leak adjustments.
Yeah, speaking of that, board members, did you get an opportunity to look at the, leak adjustments, and can I get a motion to approve those leak adjustments?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So can you tell at this point, how much of this, water loss, improvement is attributed to actually selling more and because of the new meters?
I mean, to try to get a percentage of what is, it's kinda hard to come up with. I mean, we can tell that our, based off, like I said earlier, from this time last year, the revenue was up quite a bit. So I think it's less customers too, so I think we're picking up more water, but trying to quantify that percentage, I'm really not sure I know how to do that right
And you're also treating less, so
Correct.
in other words, you're losing less, actual, loss.
Yeah,
That's the big thing right there for me, we treat less, we're treating less, we gotta be, there's something going on.
yeah, the part that bothers me is I look at, we're pulling into the plant 40 million gallons. We're using about 1 million in maintenance. Or a little more, we got 36 to 38 million going out in distribution, and of that 36 to 38 million going out into distribution, out into the pipes, we're selling 13.2. That's the part that I focus on, because obviously the goal is to get that number down get from 54, I'd like to see that number down around 25 to 30. That's what should be expected for this part of the country. And we're getting there. We've made a lot of strides in 8 months? And we got a ways to go though, but the way you get there after you change out your meters is you gotta have the money to fix the lines. And that's what's gonna drive it. Once the meters are changed out, the next driver is fix the lines where you've got the problems, like for example, 40 East. When that gets fixed, you're gonna see the leak rate go down some. And as we continue to do that, we'll see improvements. Okay, so, capital projects report.
Yeah, so I'll touch on the ones on our project updates, start on 8-1, that we have something moving. So raw water intake, so Shoemaker is gonna be on site next Tuesday through Thursday to install the 400 horsepower pump and motor on the cart and the VFD. And with the
walk it before they start it, then I plan to be there when they start it. I wanna try to be there for both, but I walked it, was it last week?
Last Wednesday.
Last week. I walked it last Wednesday and just did a walkthrough on, expectations. Here's what's wrong, here's what you have to fix, and here's what we're gonna be looking for after you say it's fixed. That kind of thing, so everybody knows what they need to do. So hopefully, the next board meeting we have, we'll have, good news. Now, keep in mind, the 400 horsepower system is the secondary system, was never intended to be the primary. The 600 horsepower is the primary. And when we get that, then we're gonna have to get that put on as, and for use.
But the size of the pump we've been renting,
650 horse
is
diesel.
650. So is there still a possibility we may have to rent a small pump to supplement this summer?
No, as long as we can get this installed, next Friday and bring it running in the near future, we'll be able to maintain with what the pump that we're gonna be putting in. 400 horsepower will maintain us, we just will not be able to gain.
Right.
Yeah, I looked at the curve, it's right on the border of maintain, so it's close.
I'm hoping with it and what rain we do get, we'll be able to sustain. Now, the 600 horsepower pump and motor though, is still the Xylem. Big Sandy did cut a check for them 2 weeks ago for the $79,000 odd dollars that was owed. And they have approved the $20,000 to fix that pump and motor. As of this morning, Xylem still have not received that check, so they will not schedule the repairs for 600 horsepower. I have seen a copy of the check and everything that was sent out, it's just not made it there yet. So hopefully that it'll come there sometime this week and they'll get started on that one.
So my point being is when the 400 horse is done, we're not done. It just takes away the issue of diesel fuel and rental cost, which is an important issue. Okay?
Auto Brown Pump Station and line replacement, Bell has indicated to Tim and I that they will have us that hopefully this week for review, final review before it goes out. 40 East Water Improvement Project, we had a kickoff meeting with that, I think it was last week for it. Hopefully that project will get moving and we'll get started construction.
Well, Bell Engineering owes us this plans and specs,
Right.
and that's supposed to be this week as well.
The water assessment's nothing new. The telemetry project, I talked to Bell today. They are still waiting on for the final parts to get, to reroute the signal from the tank to the plant so it can be operated. They kinda acted like that those parts were gonna be in late this week. If they are, then they'll try to get it scheduled for the next 2 weeks. But we're still would be missing a check valve that needs to be installed there. They shipped us two that were the wrong ones, and we've asked them to ship us new ones. We're gonna install them in-house. Nothing new on water line relocation, 908 Recessor Branch that's completed. As it states the other the warranty is good until January 2nd of 25.
That's already come and gone.
Yeah, that's 2026.
This is 2026, I'm sorry. FEMA backup generator project, maybe one of you all will provide an update on that.
Now, well, Bell Engineering owes us a design, but also, and we'll get into it on the finance side, the physical court is going to retain the funds and pay the bills. And then it'll be on the district to pay the interest on the note. And so that's what's been worked out with fiscal court specific to that. The good news is we're able to move forward and get emergency generators so that when power goes out, we can keep utilities on to our customers. That's good news for 40 East, 40 West, and then some remote locations.
My understanding is the money is in hand, they're ready to order, I guess, the equipment that is needed, right?
Yeah, the fiscal court has received the money.
So we're waiting on the engineers to tell us what to order.
Bell Engineering has finished the design, and then they have to go out for bid, and that design's finished. I talked to Steve at with Bell last week about this, and he said that, he didn't think it would be much longer for that design, 'cause it's not that complex of a design.
I think we need to press them on this.
Amen. I
Everybody
agree.
is $6,000 now.
But also what I'd stress to Bell too is because we're not adding, one of the emergency generators at one of the locations, there should be enough money there to go ahead and put emergency generator hookups on all of our locations. So it's easy for us to bring in an emergency generator, plug it right in without having to disconnect the main and hook up our wires and do all that. So there'll be more to come on that, but I agree, I've gotta push Bell, AWR's gotta push Bell to keep moving.
292 utility relocation, I talked with the state today, they're anxious to get this project started, so we had a call with Bell, and, Bell is going to set up a pre-construction meeting within the next 2 weeks with them to get this going. Again, this is a project the state highway department is paying to relocate a water line so they can put in a bridge, no cost to the district. Turkey tank rehabilitation, that is another project that Bell is supposed to have us designs, and I'm hoping they'll have it this week as well. I don't know if I don't know if they give me, I don't know if they give me a time frame, I don't remember that one. But it's in their hands to get us the design, the money's already there waiting. And cold water improvement project, again, the last thing I heard on that was they was waiting for the environmental signature to be signed off on, and after it got transferred to the Louisville branch.
Okay. All right, any questions on, capital projects report? So get into, other old business. Update on the, AWR diesel fuel release agreement. Brian was kind enough to draft a very reasonable and fair agreement that, was reciprocal in nature. And, as the board at the last meeting approved, I reviewed it, signed it, sent it over to AWR's president, he forwarded on to his legal counsel. His legal counsel's come back to Brian and asked for the raw document. My expectation is they are going to probably, I'm guessing, since they asked for the raw document, they're gonna wanna change the language in that document. And if that happens, then we'll have to come back before this board for another review and approval. So, that's where we're at in it. I don't know, at what point we're gonna get their comments back. They haven't told us. But they've had the raw document since Thursday of last week, if I remember right. So stay tuned on that. The status of the leasing on the trucks, got some good news there. The board approved the Chevy trucks and the Pop Chevrolet, although they were the lowest price of all the bids, but they were not state list. Because they weren't state list, even though they were lowest price, we couldn't go with them, but we went back to Dodge, and Dodge came back with a lower price than what the board approved. And so we ended up getting Dodge trucks, same truck for $1,420 roughly a quarter less than what the board approved. And so we're moving forward with those trucks, at the lesser amount than what was approved. And that's in process, and Todd, it's gonna take a couple weeks for the trucks to come in, and
Yeah, he has the 3500 service body, he has it on the lot. The chassis, he's putting the service body on it this week, and he has to pick up the 1500s in Tennessee and get them back to his dealership and check them out before we get them. So maybe sometime next week, we expect to be able to, take ownership of them.
and what dealership again was that? Was it
Chrysler, Freedom, Chrysler, something out of Lexington.
out of Lexington? But we'll be able to get the truck serviced at Hutch locally.
You need Dodge stores.
Any Dodge stores, okay.
But on the lease of the trucks, we also, got some GPS information for the vehicles. We talked to Verizon, and Verizon has some, the little GPS thing that they can put in the port. It's like $15.95 a month per vehicle. So it'll be roughly $900 a year to put it in the 5 vehicles that you're purchasing. That would give you daily reports, it
So one of the concerns I brought up to Todd was, you know, and some of the concerns of the general public is you're buying these new vehicles, but how do you know they're being taken care of? The only way you can answer that question is if you go with something like this, where you get a report telling you whether they're being taken care of. Outside of, you know, your normal maintenance. So, you know, I'm gonna ask the board tonight for a motion to approve putting these on these trucks so that we know they're not being abused.
I make the motion, we do that.
Second.
Good idea.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay, and also on the trucks, we just wanna figure out, you know, decals to go on the side of them. So when we get them in, take ownership, we'll put lettering on them. Just kinda look at what direction you all want to go in, we can do. Some of the ones we have now have Martin County Utility District, and there's a few of them that have MCWD, Martin County Water District, and phone number. You know, my preference would be to kinda separate the two, one would be MCWD for any water district vehicles y'all buy, and then separate it with the sewer moving forward, but,
Do whatever's cheapest.
I don't think that's not, I mean, well, I guess it would be if you buy more lettering, because some of them say Martin, if it says Martin County Water District, it's gonna be
Just
a
put a
lot
blue
more.
W on the door of the water truck.
Water truck, but, since we don't have an official, logo or.
That's it, so I'm surprised we don't have a brand. You know, actually, I like the idea of having MCWD on the trucks. I also like the idea of having a phone number on the trucks. And actually, I think legally, I think they have to have phone numbers on trucks, if they're utility based. My request would be is MCWD put on the trucks along with our phone number, you know, to call the main number if there's a problem.
I see that.
And also ask Todd to make sure that they stencil or tag the truck a specific number, the ID specific to the truck, that number will follow its maintenance records and any reports.
Yeah, I think that would.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that starting on the fleet.
Okay. So that's an update. Anything else on leasing trucks? Did I miss anything, Todd? Okay, generator funding update, we talked about that. Physical court has the funds in hand. Now it's on us to push Bell Engineering, get the design done so we can move forward with procurement and get those in place. Master plan funding update, Colby, can you update us on that?
I've not heard anything, but we are planning a meeting with Carol Lee, is that next Friday?
For Vahi?
Yes.
Yes.
And they're the ones who are working on that second part of that ARC.
Yeah, so thank you for reminding me of that. For those that don't know, the physical court approved Vahi to be their grant writer for Martin County. And as such, and I've been talking to the board members, I'd like for this board to approve a motion for us to leverage that as well. Now, it'll come with a cost. But in essence, here's what it'll do for us is for all those, not all things, but for most of the things that Big Sandy Ad is soliciting for us, they'll do for us. And what that does then is we move that effort by Big Sandy Ad over to Vahi, and they become our grant writers, but more importantly, they go after more things than what we know about or what Big Sandy Ad would do on our behalf. And I think it's gonna be necessary for us to increase, our capital projects, moving forward. So, and again, Colby and I have a meeting with Vahi, June 6th, Friday, June 6th.
Which is the same day as that, but if you can't make that.
I'll make both. Yeah, so,
I think we need to do this though. The Economic Development Cabinet was in Prestonsburg a couple weeks ago, and they had given an update on the grant program. It's an acronym they have that they administer that provides funds for water districts, counties, or nonprofits to use to match for federal awards. So essentially allows you to go after a federal award and it costs you nothing because the state has money they've set aside to use for matching. And, Perry County leads the state with 21 awards from that program. I think Johnson County comes in second with about 10 or 11. And the thing they have in common is they have someone working full-time as a grant writer in those communities. Bobby about is looking at federal awards and ways that we can leverage the state funding that helps us not have a match.
So the plan is we'll meet with Fahia, but I wanna come away from that meeting with a better understanding of A, what can they do for us, B, what's it gonna cost us, and C, what's the time frame to implement that? And so, you know, if we have a special meeting, we'll talk about a special meeting, later tonight, or our next regular scheduled meeting, we'll have more information to share.
So Fahi is a company.
Yes,
So it won't be someone who is a grant writer that's from the county, but it will be this company.
You'll have a single person at Fahey who'll be working with
That
the
will
community.
yeah.
Yeah, Fahey, they're based out of Berea, and they have a 6-state kind of coverage area. We worked with them when I was in Harlan County to help write some of those community development block grants.
Okay.
They've got special certifications to write those. They've got a lot of expertise in that field.
Yeah, they come highly recommended, I know that. So more to follow on that, master meter delivery construction schedule, Todd?
Yeah, so we have, about, I think it's 18 meters left to replace. And those are 2-inch meters that we haven't received yet, that I was told today that we will receive tomorrow. We'll get a pickup, we'll finish, I think that's about 13 of those 18. And the remaining ones are the 4-inch and 3-inch meters. When they shipped us, they didn't have the right registers on them, they didn't have the radio reads, so they were supposed to be shipping us those. He was supposed to give me an update on that today when I received it, but he didn't get it to me. But I expect to receive them shortly too, and we'll get them installed as well.
Okay. All right, and then I'll finish it out, and then we'll be done with the meter project. Raw water intake project update, we've already talked about that quite a bit already, so I think everybody's up to speed on that, as long as there's no questions. Proposed language to operate within a balanced budget update. The truth is, I've been so busy with so many other projects in the district, I have not had time to get to that. It is on my list. My wife was kind enough to take the PDF documents, convert them to Word, and get them in a clean version that I can work with. And I do plan to get that done. I just haven't had time to date to address that. Martin County Water District rules and regulations will focus on cost language. Same thing, and I'm gonna do it within the same document. And again, as I said before, I'm just gonna default to the PSC standard language on that. So if you're curious of what that is, you can look it up, but it's all it says is we will charge cost to the customer instead of the 1,000 flat rate that we have now. Flood damage infrastructure status, KY emergency management paperwork update. We've already talked about that extensively so far. We just need to keep a finger on the financial pulse to see what that's gonna do for us. The master service agreement status, those were sent over to Brian, and Brian, I don't know if you had a chance to look at those yet.
I've not, I'm the bottleneck on that one, and
Okay.
it's a-
And what that'll
It'll be
do is,
addressed.
that'll give us the ability to solicit, and get contractors, on board that can respond to emergency situations, which we currently don't have. All right, other new business, review and consideration to approve making, Kentucky Waters Program KIA scoring evaluation by Martin County Water Board Attorney. Currently it says draft, I'd like for the board a motion to approve it as final and to release it to the public. As the board had an opportunity to read that, I apologize, it came through late today as a final. And I know, Nina, you had some comments that we went back and, or Brian went back and added into the document.
I still think we should add one thing that is, I didn't see that you'd add, I've got your old version here, but I think it's still the same in the new. On section 10 underwater, issue fully resolved. And what they say in their scoring, the rubric itself, it says that every applicant received the total amount of points available in that category, and I think we should make that public. You know, what you say, I think, is, while that standard seems arbitrary, our applications demonstrate the funding would resolve the immediate issue.
Yeah.
That's even beside the point. Everybody got it but us.
Every other applicant got the points except.
Every applicant received the total amount of points available. Funding will be able to fully resolve the pending issues in the application. There was no way for KIA staff to prove that the funding would not complete the project described in the application. I think that's an important point.
And Brian, do you have did you attach that to the email, the raw document, Nina, when you sent out the email with your
Yeah.
comments?
Mhm.
I thought you did.
And it's on page 9, it's under project applicant scoring methodology and results.
That was your first email, not your second email. Your first email had the
I put it
attachment.
in both.
Both? All right.
Yeah, I think that would definitely need to be, if everyone got it but us.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
well,
so.
I did see that there was another county that didn't get it. Well, it's on them to say that they didn't get it, but there was, I went through and, word searched for that category. And so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments on the draft version?
Then after that part, it will be corrected.
Well, that's what I was gonna do, is can we get a motion to approve it once Brian makes that change? And here's why I'm asking for that motion, is once Brian makes that one change, I wanna release it to the public. When I say release to the public, I'm talking about everybody. Whether it be newspapers, whether it be, politicians, whether it be KIA, whether it be Big CDN, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Release it to
because,
everybody.
at the last water council meeting, it was mentioned that, the scoring was it's KIA, not the legislature, but the scoring was unfair because it twice, you got 20 points for regionalization. And, those that are more, able to meet their, obligations every month, they're not gonna take on something like Martin County to regionalize with us. And so it put what was supposed to be money for the worst ended up being held against us.
Part of that argument, though, I think is part of the statute, and how the statute's worded. So when I go back to the statute, the way the statute's worded, you'd have to change the statute to correct that problem. And that's why, when I looked at what we asked Brian to do, we said, Brian, take all of our comments and arguments and put it into an assessment report that defines without a benefit of a doubt what was done versus what was provided versus what was the outcome, what that created. And the reality is this, it's really simple. At the end of the day, we should have gotten 8 projects awarded to us worth $24 million in 2025 going into 2026. That's what should have happened. 4 in water, 4 in sanitation. So Martin County lost out on $24 million in improvements. That $24 million combined with the current $13.15 million that we have in projects right now, and if you combine that with projects that we'll qualify for in 2026 funding, because there's another, 75 million, then if we score near the same or the same, which I'd expect us to, not our scoring, not their scoring, I would expect for us to be getting money then. If we get roughly the same amount of money, you're talking, somewhere around $62 million. And right now, our SIP program says that we need $100 million to fix all of our problems on sanitation and water. So we'd be 2/3 of the way there fixed, just off of that program.
And just a warning, there's less money next year, and people can apply for emergency funding, so there may even be less than what was expected.
So-
Although we could be one of those that applies for emergency funding, just saying.
So first, can I get a motion to approve with adding Nina's recommendation into the draft document, that once Brian make those changes, approve that document as final and release?
I will make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
All in favor? Okay. Okay, the next one is tied directly to that. I'd like to review and consideration to approve the chairman, myself, to explore legal options for KIA scoring impacts the Martin County Water District. And here's my thoughts on that. And this is at no cost to the district. I would just like to go out and explore. Do we have any legal avenues? And if so, what are they? And what could be gained, what could be lost? And just come back to the board, our next regular scheduled meeting, and give the board an update on those findings. And, I'd like to have the board's approval to just explore that possibility.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll say.
all in favor? Okay. Review and consideration to approve moving the June regular meeting to a different date, and here's why I do that, the meeting currently is scheduled while, Vernon, myself, and Colby will be in the PSC mandatory,
Commissioner's turn.
training, that week, and that training's Tuesday, Wednesday, right? And so we could move the meeting, further down in that week, either a Thursday or Friday, or move it to a different week, but I think some folks have different weeks, there's, other folks have got plans, so. What works for everybody? Get on the calendar.
Does the fiscal court meet on the fourth Thursday?
I think they do.
That might be a conflict, cause that's the same week as.
Right.
I thought the fourth and third. I thought it used to be the fourth, cause there was always a conflict with Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the fourth Tuesday of every month,
It's fourth Tuesday for us, right?
fourth Tuesday every month for these meetings,
For these meetings,
for these meetings.
but you're saying physical court meeting.
Fiscal court meetings, fiscal court meets. Hang on, I have their information as well.
So that's the name of the ones that meet in this room.
Fiscal court meets every, third Thursday,
Third Thursday.
third Thursday.
So we could do Thursday, the 26th.
That would work for us.
Does that work for the board members?
That'll work.
So we'll wanna move the regular scheduled meeting to June the 26th, Thursday, June 26th.
For the time being.
At the normal time, 6 P.M., okay? All right. Okay,
Your motion to that effect?
I'd like to have a motion to move the meeting.
Yeah, before you make that motion, I just wanted to clarify that even though that you're just scheduling it, it still
It's still
makes it a special
special.
meeting. So if you want it, it has to be on the agenda.
Yeah, can't bring anything up other than what's on it.
Right. Well, we'll just make sure we produce a full agenda for both, and that's both for, when we get to sanitation, we'll do the same thing. Yeah, okay. All right, so we got a motion, did we get a second?
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Review consideration to approve, filling the Martin County public pool at no cost to the county, so let me just touch on that. As most of you know, the physical court, is opening the pool this year, first time in 7 or 8 years, I think. And, the county, approached me and asked me if we would, fill the pool approximately 180,000 gallons, at no cost. My thoughts on it are simply this, it's a service to the community, but more importantly, in my mind, how my mind works, it's a service to the community's children. And so I'm asking for a motion to offer that water at no cost to the county.
Yes, so the metered water was 173,906 gallons. The total estimated bill will be $2,010.26.
Oh, so you've already?
It's already full.
I will make that motion.
So it's a question of not whether we're filling it, the question is will we fill it at no cost? So there's a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I mean, it's just where it is.
Amen. It's the right thing to do. Okay, discuss clearing vegetation and mowing around district infrastructure. Tom?
Yeah, we actually had that, they started, working over at the reservoir on Friday, and they brought like 7 inmates, up there, and they cleared a bunch of backside of the dam off. They're scheduled to come back again this Friday to finish cleaning up. A large part of this was to do with, what they're cleaning now is to do with our dam inspections.
Mhm.
The vegetation stuff they wanted cleared up in that report. They took care of a big majority of that, and we think that this Friday, that they should be able to finish the impact of that. And we worked with Eric with, the county, and he's kind of let us know that anytime we need them, that they're available.
Yeah.
And we'll use them.
That's one of the things I stopped by AWR's office earlier this week, and I asked him to try to leverage that to as much as possible for, when you need a labor source. Because, I mean, we can always work doing cleanup and pickup and vegetation removal and such around all of our infrastructure. Just make it, look good. Not to mention the Army Corps of Engineers inspection, which that work had to been done by the end of June, if I remember right. As far as the vegetation that was in their report. Okay. All right. And then, review and consideration to approve microcom service agreement. In your board packets, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, there's a service agreement in there. And I had a question, Todd, specific to historically, how many failures have we had? And what would that have cost us? Cause I'm trying to get a feel for, would this pay for itself or not? Does it make sense to do?
Historically, I don't know how far I can go back, besides really the last year, that my experience with it, and in my experience, we've replaced a bunch of equipment last year, whether it be boards, antennas, I'm in the $6,300, I think is what the price is.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, but not even come close to covering the equipment that we had to replace this year.
Okay.
And not just the equipment replaced, it's the remote access service that they provide for when we have issues, that they can log in and walk us through it.
Okay. All right, so you think it pays for itself, is what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve to have this, it's actually would start this service because things were under warranty previously, right? Or this expires in June?
This expired.
It's
This is
existing.
renewing it,
Okay,
the service has been here for years.
okay. So I get a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Get a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Review and discuss WTP SCADA computer quote. I went through and added all that up. Is that $27,000 total for all of it? That's the computer,
There are different options in there.
There's different options.
You've been working on this, I'll let you talk about it. I don't know.
Yeah, they just we asked them to give us a few different options of what they can provide. The first one there on 10G1 is for us to provide our own, computer and hardware, and for them to remote in to install everything. 10G2 would be us, providing the same thing, but them being on site for 2 days to activate and install, plus they give a 1-year warranty with that. And then the last option would be them providing the computer for those same services, and you get an extra 3-year Dell warranty with that. We just wanted to get all the different options, what.
Okay, so you're asking the board to either spend $12,000 for everything, or $9,300 for some things, or $4,800 for the minimum
Correct.
thing. Okay, I got it now. All right, so what's AWR recommending? Which one?
We need a new computer for sure. So I would recommend, if funds available, is that we take the $11,000 option and get the extended warranty with it. Because it's crucial to our operation. I mean, if we lose it, then we have nothing.
And what budget's this coming out of?
Right now,
The maintenance budget that's already,
I mean, it could come out of maintenance, but yes.
I mean, that's a budget it should come out of, right? And that maintenance budget's already 50% spent for 25% into the year?
Again, we do have a computer that we pulled from the sewer plant that we are working off of now, and we can try to have all forms running if that's what y'all would like to do.
How old is that computer?
I think
3 years old.
3 years old, yeah.
Let me ask you this, if we spent the money to do this, then the money that we've already asked for through, Big Sandy Ad for the remaining funds, the $451,000 roughly that we're waiting on KIA matching, if we spent the money, we couldn't be reimbursed because we already did this work without their,
No, not necessarily, because we got reimbursed on the last set through like West Tech and Sitco homework has been provided, and Los Island. So they can, as long as it's part of the approved project, it's put into the engineering.
not, when, the last email I got from Joe Jacobs for Big Sandy Ad, in his email, he talked as if this wasn't a big deal, getting the matching funds from KIA.
That's the way.
He said it was a 30-day deal, wasn't a big deal.
That's the way I took it as well.
That's an expensive computer, is it a different kind of computer for?
It's the RAM, it's the
Gigabytes of RAM.
it's the hardware interface that the computer has to have all the SCADA on it, the HMI, what's called human machine interface. It's graphics so that you can go in and control things and look at all the operations and data.
It's also specific software just for our plant.
Right.
But
Which
that
has-
software
The software
comes
is the
with,
4,000.
Yeah, the software's a different computer.
I think you can get a computer cheaper than $2,700 myself.
Dell Precision 36.
What is the Dell Pro Support Plus? Is that just like if their computer fails, they come and work on it every year?
It's a warranty.
and accidental damage.
Can we get a quote for just a computer, just a computer that has those specs?
Yeah.
And then maybe we need their service or whatever, but
You have to have the service, one way or the other, you're gonna have to pay for the minimum of $4,800 to them, plus on top of a computer.
Well, here's what we can do, because, is if we can get a separate quote, then we go back to them with that quote and say, you need to match this quote. So we work this number down from 11,000. So we get a separate quote, because we can get a separate quote on the computer. Problem we can't get a separate quote on is data migration and the Southern Flow warranty. That's limited to just them. So let's do that, let's go back to them. So in the interim, while we're doing this, the plant is temporarily operating off the old computer in a patch, what I call patch system, it's just a temporary software interface for now.
can we do that for a little bit longer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any issue in that, they're doing it that way, I mean, they've logged in, got everything, the only thing was, we've had a couple blips on it over, they were supposed to log back in and make some repairs, and I don't know if they were.
We're in a demo right now, and I guess the activation from the old computer, we had to send them our old computer, and
It's a
we're waiting on them
licensing. It's a
to
license.
activate the
Yeah.
license from that computer
Right.
and put it on the one that we have now.
Okay.
If that all works out, then as
It
long as
should, because that license
computer
will carry
lasts,
over from that computer to this
you
one.
know, but ideally, we'd always wanna have, on the SCADA computer, a backup of that and a backup of all pump station tank SCADA computer too, at some point.
Yeah. Well, that's part of phase 3 for the plant, when in the funding for phase 3 was SCADA system upgrade improvements for redundancy,
It was included in that,
that's not funded.
correct.
Right. Okay. Okay, well, board, what do you think about that, trying to go back and negotiate this down and using, and then AWR come back to us with a revised $12,000 number. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm gonna ask for a motion to, convene into closed executive session. After that, if that motion is approved, the board, I'm gonna ask you to meet in the conference room. Everyone can stay seated in here. What I'm asking the motion to convene is I would like to talk about the raw water intake case. And I would also like to talk about the, AWR diesel fuel, agreement.
And the Kathy Fletcher.
Yes, thank you.
I'm Kathy Fletcher, so I'm here, so I'd like to join in with that
Okay, you cannot join in on the closed session,
on my session.
but when we get down to, guests, you're welcome to speak and, you know, the board would be happy to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
Should we hear before we go into
Sure,
executive session?
we can do that.
Skip me and go to her first. Make a
Okay.
couple comment. You can take my pen.
Well, let's do that. Let's go ahead and go to introductions of the guests. Start with Ms. Fletcher.
I just wanted to be a part of whatever discussions you guys have concerning me. And I'd like to ask Brian Cumbo for the easement that he says he has for my property, for the lines and stuff that goes into my property.
My understanding is the district doesn't have an
But
easement.
there is no easement, Ms. Fletcher.
Is that where, is that,
Right, but they kept saying that they do, and they kept coming for years and years, digging around trying to find that meter. They don't know where the meter's at, so they won't stop my bill, or let me disconnect my water, because they don't know how to disconnect my water.
well, we do know how to disconnect your water, ma'am. The issue we have is there's not an easement agreement on file. And so, per our rules and regulations, it says that if a bill goes unpaid, then the customer's given notice, which you have been given notice. And then the next step is if the notice if the customer doesn't come in after a certain period of time and go on what's called a payment plan,
I want to do that.
you wanna go in on a
Yeah,
payment
I
plan?
told them I want to do that.
Okay, well, you just go to where you pay your bill, and, I believe Cassandra, she could probably get with you or one of your staff to go on a payment plan. And then also, as part of that, it also says in our rules and regulations that anybody that has service, has to enter into what's called an easement agreement. And that easement agreement, all it does is it gives us, the utility, the right to put a meter and a box at your property. And it normally, Todd, you'll get with the customer and agree on the location of that meter and box. And based on my research of the records, and I've done a lot of work on your situation, so I know a lot about it. I believe, and it's just what I believe your meter box got buried when the Giovanni's went in. That's what I believe.
I believe it got buried when their waste station got put in. That
So-
round circle waste station thing that wasn't there, that's underneath it, that's where I have always said that meter was located.
And so, what the district did, and rightfully so, since the district couldn't find your meter and read it, what the district did was just build you the minimum amount, each month. And so, which was the right thing to do. But now what the right thing to do is two things. One, agree to go on a payment plan. Two, agree to an easement agreement so we can
That
put
I
them.
won't do, because they also, they say they have lines in my driveway. Those lines aren't supposed to be there. I didn't give anyone easements to put, or permission to put any lines through my driveway or underneath my driveway. I don't want them to be there.
Okay. I can understand your concern, but I can tell you this, and Brian, I don't wanna speak for the attorney side, but in the state of Kentucky, there's what's called a prescribed easement. In essence, what that is if a utility puts a line in, and that line has been there for 15 years and maintained, the utility has the right to access and service that line with or without an easement agreement. okay? And so I'm glad you're here tonight so we can work this out, because people in the community get to know me, they'll learn, I'm about doing the right thing. And in my mind, the right thing is to work with you so that we can put a meter that's agreeable to you in a location that's agreeable, so that we can accurately.
Do you not have a line that runs just off of the highway straight to where it does not need to come through my driveway?
There is a line on 40 East that, is getting tore out, right, Todd? That line's getting tore out, and there's a new line, 10-inch line on the other side
Correct.
that all those taps are gonna go into. That's called Route 40 East project. But right now, is there a, if I were standing in her driveway looking towards 40, just to the left, there's a 2-inch line right there, just to the left of her driveway that's active.
There's an 8-inch line that comes down, that feeds the pump station, that comes down, comes across on the right side of her driveway, goes into the pump station, comes back out, and there's also a 3-inch line that feeds through the middle of that lot beside of her driveway, that goes straight through her driveway into Tommy's parking lot.
In Tommy's parking lot.
So how long have those lines been there, and can you prove to me how long they've been there?
I don't have it on the date right now to look at you, I don't know when that is.
A long
Because
time.
I need to know that.
So the question is where do we put the meter?
This is my thing. Before I want to allow them an easement or to be able to access lines or anything in my driveway, I would rather not have water. I would rather have a drilled well and not have their service, because I don't want them on my property. I don't want them digging up, I can't even blacktop my driveway if there's lines under it, because they're gonna tear it up. And every time I put gravels, they tear it up.
You'd have to
I put
go to the
concrete,
health
they tear it
department
up.
to get their approval for the well. That's outside our.
Right, but I don't want it to be an issue.
We don't want
Because
to be just.
about the meter, about an easement,
Yeah.
all that, because I would rather just set up a payment plan, start paying my bill, be done with the service, and get water some other way. That's what I want to do.
Well, I can't control what your dealings with the health department, because that's
Right.
another service, and I can tell you this, under the health department rules, if you're on utility water, them approving you to put a well in probably won't happen. I don't know that they'll approve it, is my point, because you have an active service now.
But what if I don't have an active
If
service?
you don't have an active service, then they're gonna ask why.
Because I'd rather have well water.
So,
I mean,
but
people should be able to choose if they wanted well water, no?
people can, the way that it's written, people can choose if they want well water, they can.
I had one.
But what the health department's supposed to do is look and see if there's an active service within a reasonable distance. And then they're supposed to do a cost assessment, determine, is it cheaper to go with the utility water, or is it cheaper to go with the well water? And that's the health department makes that decision, that's nothing to do with this board. Now, we provide the health department with GIS data showing where all of our lines are and where everything is, but the health department makes that decision. And then the health department then notifies AWR in this case and says, there's a potential customer that's located at this location, they're wanting a well, you have a line here, what would it take for you to hook them up? And then they tell them what it would take, and what the cost of that is, because there's a cost. As you know, residential, it's a flat fee of $1,000 for a tap and all that, per our rules and reg currently. And so, but specific to your case, gonna have to sign up for a payment plan, number one. And number two, our rules and regs require anybody that has a service there has to be an easement, there has to be a meter, and there has to be a meter base for that. We can't allow people.
I don't feel I should owe $1,000 for a meter when I wasn't the one that damaged the meter or hit the meter or buried the meter.
She's not gonna be charged for a meter, right?
No, you're not gonna be charged for a meter.
No.
Your meter, just like we talked about the other
In my
day.
letter I can show from Brian Cumbo, it said that if I have my service disconnected, because I would wanna disconnect it, and if it's disconnected, I will owe $1,000 for a new meter.
That's correct.
That's
You
in the
have to disconnect your service and pull it for non-payment to to be reinstalled on it, you have to pay a tap fee.
I showed you down there, I wanted to make my payments, and I went and talked to you.
I mean, the
But
letter that
my
I sent you does
issue
state,
is about everybody just coming in there constantly digging, tearing up my property, leaving it. You said you would come back with the gravels for the dip that's in it that was still left, and I took a picture today, it's still no gravels there.
I've got
but I
four
dealt with that for a
pictures
long
of when we
time.
started digging too, and driveway is a lot
But,
better than when we
I
left.
mean, imagine if it was your driveway, and you wanted to, like I said, I need to move my bridge over. Your guy's stuff is blocking me, but it's actually my land. And I can't move my bridge over, and I've already lost my bridge. I have videos, pictures, whatever y'all wanna see. I have pictures when COVID, the mandate lockdown came. They were there digging in front of my window, this has been going on for 11 years, with even shovels on the corners of my bridge, where there's clearly no meters on their lines. I'll go get it, I'll bring it, I'll show you. I've
So-
dealt with this stuff for a long time, and I don't wanna deal with it anymore. I just want them to, if they have something on my property that is not supposed to be there, I want it moved. I want access because that's my only access to my home. I don't have any other way to get there. And they keep taking it and tearing it up. If you couldn't access your home, move your bridge, be able to have a decent driveway to get in and out, you guys would feel like I do.
The line that's, does it run under her driveway, the current line that's there, that 3 inch, and that goes feeds,
It feeds everything on the right side of the road going down 40 East.
And that's all gonna be changed when the new line goes in?
Yes. That's all, when the new line, 40 East project, all those taps on that side of the road go away, and everybody's tap is going to the 10 inch line. And all of that, the 6 and the 3 go away, right? And the 2 inch goes away too, there's a 2 inch line,
Correct.
in that area as well.
Everything on that side will go away and be tied into the 10 inch. Now, all the services that come back, especially like the one that we just tapped off for Tommy Maynard beside of it, we went ahead and tapped off the 10 inch line, so that service box is set, it's not gonna be moved. So it's still gonna stay there at the edge of that driveway.
Yeah, and his is on at the edge of the driveway. If mine was at the edge of the driveway, I don't understand why there needs to be lines in my driveway.
Well, I mean, I offered to put you one at the edge of your driveway and run you a new service line all the way to your house.
Yeah, but you still have all of your other lines wherever they are, and you didn't offer to move those.
We can't, because if we do, nobody down below you has water.
But there's no way, I don't know what,
But eventually, they will be
Yes.
gone. They will be gone. When, I mean,
This
that
fall.
project is
This fall.
funded and it was started.
It's in design, I'll get the design this week, soon as I get through the design, it's going to bid, that work's gonna happen this fall.
And at that point, everybody that's there will get a tap that's in a different location.
Well, the tap was come off the 10 inch main, it's gonna be ran down to
To
replace
their
it.
existing.
But the boxes and everything will stay where they're at.
so what I'm asking is, when your new project starts, is there still a reason that you would, like, I had the ditch that used to run, that was a long time issue, that kept water off my bridge. Just on this side of the bridge. You guys filled it up and you wouldn't allow me when I asked to be able to put that little ditch back to keep water off my bridge. You said no, because there are lines there. Then you're saying there's lines all underneath my driveway. I don't know why it has to be there, there's no house except for me across the creek. And then you say there's a tap for Tommy Maynard, which is close to the road. I don't know why they're there, I don't know why you need to keep them there. And if the new project starts, are those lines gonna be moved? To where I can keep a ditch to keep my bridge from being flooded every time it floods in that area. I lose my bridge, I don't have a ditch, I don't have anything. And I can't do what I need to do simply because you guys are there. And I feel it's unfair if I own land, that you guys just come in and put whatever you want, wherever you want, with no permission or whatever.
Well,
That
this-
I'm
I
trying
can
to
assure
change.
you now that the people that are here now would not ever install something.
No, well, our rules don't allow it. what's on your land was done long before anybody here, and so I can't speak to that. I can speak to what's there now. I can also tell you that when 40 East project goes in, I'm looking at the calendar here, the field work's gonna start in October, it's gonna finish in mid-December. And then when that work is done, those lines that you're referring to, I'm talking about the 2-inch and the 6-inch and the 3-inch, those go away. Those aren't active anymore. But to solve the immediate problem, what we have to have is we have to have, for you to come to the water department and agree to a payment plan.
That I have no issue with. I've told them all along, I want this resolved so that my water bill doesn't get so high that I can't afford to pay it.
Right.
Well, I rarely ever hear anything from them. They just show up and they dig and they leave. No one tries to contact me, no one tries to work out a deal, except for the few letters that I've gotten from Ron Gumbo.
Yeah,
Has been it. I have been the one going down there and trying to resolve the issue.
I asked Brian to send you that letter, because I said, we've gotta give you a formal notice of what's going on. And that's why you received that letter. But as the letter stated, the payment plan, the easement, and put it in a meter box. And as Todd had mentioned, we'll run you a line. But, you tell us where you want your meter box at and how you want your line ran. Because right now, unless we come on your property and find the line, we haven't found it. I don't know where it's at. I don't know where it comes from.
I don't know either, but they've looked, I've allowed them to look. Metal detectors all around my property, they look everywhere. I don't even know where else they could dig, I feel like all my rights have been violated, because clearly they weren't supposed during the mandate lockdown. They were not allowed to show up. No one was supposed to even be out there, especially 6 at a time. I mean, I have been violated, I have been mistreated in every kind of way. I do not want to give an easement. That is my only access, like I said. I can never get another access. I can't go through Giovanni's, I cannot go through Dash, I cannot go through anywhere besides that little area that belongs to me.
I understand, all the easement does, you still maintain your rights, all the easement does is it gives you utility right to set the box where you tell us to set it,
Where you want it.
where you want it, and it gives us a right to come to that box, not past that box, up to the box so we can read the meter. And if there's a problem with the meter, we can replace the meter, fix the meter, but after the meter, that's yours. That's not on us.
That's the way it's supposed to be right now, but it ain't been that way for 11 years.
It's 'cause somebody
So that's
buried
why I'm
it.
so scared
Somebody
about
buried
that
it, so.
kind of thing.
But if you could just work with us and get this worked out, I greatly appreciate it. I mean, the right thing to do is to take care of this problem and get it fixed.
Well, I'm totally willing to make payments on my bill. The decision of whether I want water, I'm not sure yet.
That's between you and the health department. You've been
Well,
there
I
with us.
should, I've had well water, I drilled well before, it was great, and I could drink it, and it was a one-time bill, and that was the end of that, so that to me is an option, and I have 3 acres of land over there, nothing else around me, I'm sure I should be able to. If I can, I would rather go that route. That way this is not gonna be an issue, when my kids or my grandkids or whoever decides to live there anymore.
Well, let's do this. It sounds like you show up and get on a payment plan, and you go to the health department, work it out with them. And you're on a payment plan. If the health department tells you to put your well in, then you just notify AWR when you're gonna put your well in. And when you put your well in, then when we put 40 East in, it'll automatically get cut off then for sure, because that whole, that side of the road's gonna be disconnected.
Right. I'll check with them if I can go that route and afford to go that route. I'm gonna go that route,
I would say the health department would have to make sure that you do not have water, because otherwise your well water would mix with our water. That's one of the things that they would have to make sure of, is that you're not getting any of the city water.
Yeah, it would have to be disconnected. There can't be both. It can't be on both.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, well, I wasn't planning on keeping the city water if I go.
But they'd have to get on your land and disconnect it.
Yes.
Well, the health department is I don't have an issue with them so far,
Huh?
When I go past the
We
meter.
don't want to make that.
There is no
If I
meter.
were-
It sets a new meter and a new line.
Well, no, there's no sense in us setting a new meter, a new line. If she goes to the health department and say, yeah, she gets a permit, she ought to get a permit to put the well in. she has a permit to put the well in, then, you know, at some point, we'd have to get on her property and disconnect the line.
I feel like, with all the money spent on excavators, workers, all of that to dig the not on my property, but everybody else's around me, all these years, the money they spent for that, they could have set the meter and stayed off my property all this time to set the meter. And went from there, just like they're saying they wanna do
We
now.
can't
you
do
know.
it without, we can't set the meter tied to your line without an easement agreement. We can't do, there has to be an easement agreement to give us that right to be able to do that.
Well, you say that, but you didn't have an easement when whatever was put there is already there.
I
you know,
can't
kind of
speak to
thing.
what other people did and why or
Right.
what,
But I don't
what
think
they
it's
did.
been all that long, there's been work there that has been done off and on for years, all the way up until current, you know? So I don't know how long those lines have been there.
To lay her line to her house, is that right?
Todd offered to put the meter in and put a new line all the way to her house at no
And
cost
I
to
don't
her.
have a problem with that, I told you I didn't have a problem with that, as long as I don't pay for the meter, and as long as I'm not giving an easement, I don't want to give an easement, I don't feel like as landowner, we should have to do
You
that.
have to give
I mean,
an
if it's out at the road, yeah, that's fine with me.
That's what we would set, we would set
But
out the road where Tommy's
No
at.
access, just like you said, if your line blew out today, would I tell you you can't fix your line? Same difference, if I blacktopped it today and you said you got an issue with your line, there goes my blacktop. Who's gonna pay for that? Me, all the time, cannot afford that.
No, that would, if there's a line underneath there that blew out, we would have to make repairs to put it back the way it was.
Yeah, I mean, the district is willing to do this at no cost to you, to put the meter in and all that, but we can't do it without an easement agreement. The easement agreement, again, all it does is it just gives us a right to work up to the meter box and the meter. After that, it's yours.
That might be doable as long as it's located at the road and people are off my driveway.
You tell them where you want it, and we prefer it to be.
Meter has to be
around-
located on your property,
That is my property.
the driveway.
All the way from my deed, I'm sure y'all looked at it 1,000 times, is from the blacktop down to the creek, that is my property. My driveway that I
That
drive
is your
on is
right
my
of way,
property.
that is not your property.
Do what?
That
It's
is
a
your
right of way.
way.
Yeah.
It's not
That
your
is my
property.
property, it says paid cash in hand, my dad bought that, and it is my property.
No, it's not, it's not.
Yes,
You have a
it is.
right of way across that property.
Yeah, that my dad bought, because it said paid in,
That's-
paid $1 cash in hand, just like, you know, you tried to say. We bought that to access our land. So that is ours in our deed.
You
That
bought
says
the-
we,
You bought the right of way.
if we buy the right of way, that means that's ours, right?
Well, right of way means you have the right to access it, that's what a right of way is. So that'd be like if I bought two pieces of property here and here, or no, I bought a piece of property here, and somebody else owned this in front of me, and here's a blacktop, then I would get a right of way from the property owner here, so I could cross their property via a road to get to my property. Now, that gives me the right to access this anytime I want. And also, it gives me, I have to maintain that, as well. But it doesn't mean I own, it just means I have a right of way to get from across somebody else's property to my property. That's what a right of way does. And so, what I'm hearing here is you're willing to come down and get on a payment plan, which is great, and then you'll get with Todd and walk and talk where you want your meter, how you want your line run to your house, and at no cost to her, you'll put this in, but we have to do it under an easement agreement. We can't do it without an easement agreement.
Okay, I understand.
And remember, new line's gonna go across the road, they ain't gonna bother you, you're having to, that's the 40 project.
Yeah, that's the main issue to me, you know, because like I said, that's blocking and interfering with my only access that I have to get there.
Yep.
And that's why I've been the way I am and so protective of it, because you know,
I understand.
like I said, that's the only way I do have to go in and out.
Well, do you think that what we're proposing here is the right thing to do?
Yes, I do.
Okay, that's important. I think it's always important that we do the right thing. All right, thank you.
I appreciate it.
it.
Thank you.
Maybe we could bring this back on for the next meeting for the review, make sure it's been accomplished.
Say that again, Brian, I'm sorry.
Maybe we should put this on the agenda for the next meeting to make sure we've accomplished
Yes,
what we.
I agree. So can you all add that to the next meeting, Ms. Fletcher's, status?
Yeah, and as soon as you come in and set the payment plan up and sign the user.
I can come down there tomorrow and do that.
As soon as you sign that, we'll get it scheduled. to do
I'm not
it.
signing an easement, but I will come down and sign a payment plan, you know.
Well, I can't do nothing without the easement.
I gotta have an easement for him to set the meter and run the new line to your house.
But can I
Tell us what
make
you-
a payment plan, set up payment arrangements on my bill regardless of that issue?
Yes, you
You
can. set the
can.
payment.
That's what I want to do.
Okay, all right, but that's fine, but we still need to put in a meter for your line. We still gotta do that. You know, we gotta know how much water you're consuming.
Cause me and my daughter, I'm not sure ain't using much. I don't have a swimming pool, I don't have a garage, I don't have a car, I don't have a hot tub.
Yeah, I looked at your property from Google Earth, so I seen your property. It's just, for us to install the meter and run a new line to your house at no cost to you, we have to have an easement agreement so that we can do that. We can't do that without that.
I get
And
that.
just going on a payment plan is not gonna solve the problem, we gotta have a meter. And that's the rub. So, but, you stop down and do the payment plan, and, you know, if you wanna consult with Brian about the easement agreement, I don't know if you've read one of our easement agreements, it's pretty straightforward, but Brian, if you would review it with her, and you're not giving up your property rights. All you're doing is giving us during normal business hours the right to come to where the meter's placed and be able to read the meter. And work on that line up to the meter when it needs worked on. After the meter, it's yours. After we install it, it's yours. We don't own it. You own it.
The only place that I feel comfortable allowing that to be is right there next to the blacktop. You know, Tommy Maynard's is on one side, mine should be able to be right on the other side, and it'd be close to the road,
It's-
and no
it's
need to access.
It's supposed to be
the
on
road.
your property though.
Huh?
It has to be on your property. The meter would have to be on your property, it couldn't be on a right of way.
I would have to speak to an attorney, that's what I mean about, like, I'm not willing to do anything unless I ask an attorney for their advice. That way I know I'm doing
Yeah.
the right thing. Because the right of way to me, when, you know, when we bought it or it was separate or whatever, because Dad thought he, you know, was buying it, and it does, they paid $1 cash in hand, just like all other things do, cause they
But
were
it's
best
giving them
friends, but
an
whatever, I
access.
figure that's my property.
All right. So, Brian, if you don't mind, can you get Ms. Fletcher a copy of our, easement agreement?
I think I sent her one with that letter, did I?
I thought you did.
No, I didn't receive, I've never seen an easement, like what an easement agreement is. I got a letter that said I need to, you know, in order to have services that I have to.
Well, when you come down for your payment plan, AWR has those agreements in hand. Feel free to grab the easement agreement and maybe swing by and see Brian, he can explain it to you.
I mean, she can talk to me, but it sounds like she's wanting to talk to some other attorney, and if
Okay.
that's the case, you know, absolutely, you should do so. But,
Yeah.
Okay?
you know, at least to get.
I mean, I just wouldn't feel comfortable talking, the only attorney I talk to happens to be your guys' attorney, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? I feel like I need to speak to my own attorney.
Okay. All right, so,
I can give you a copy of the easement, and you can take it to whatever attorney you want to, if it's all good.
That'll be fine, you can give it to him, I guess, or one of the water people, members, and I'll pick it up tomorrow when I
Yeah,
submit
they
my
already
payment
have
plan.
copies of the easements.
yeah.
That's all.
I had to sign one when I bought my land and have home here. I signed it. I had to sign it, so.
And then found out the meter wasn't on my land. That's another story.
Okay, additional guests? Madison.
Hello, everyone. I will be, brief. I know we have a whole nother meeting to get to. So for the past few months, I've been coming in and talking a little about this development I've been creating with, my colleague Natasha Moore, is the Martin County Water Resilience Toolkit. So we are right now, getting ready to be in the phase of our first official draft. And what that means is almost personally for me, over 3.5 years, I've almost 4 years, this August will make 4 years, I've dedicated a lot of my, professional career working with Like and Knowledge, understanding our water story here. And when I mean by water story, I mean wastewater, our regular water, emergency preparedness, and just general information when it comes to all things water, on the state, local, and federal level. And so, with this being said, there's parts of this Martin County Water Resilience Toolkit that I would love to share pieces of like a puzzle to you, to get your feedback on, based on your gifts and your expertise and your local knowledge in this community. And especially for the board members that are sitting today, the years of experience of being on the board and understanding the water and wastewater system on a community level. So, with all this being said, I would love to, once we have our draft version sent to our partners, we have some national partners that we work with, which is RCAT, which is kind of like another TAP support like we have with rural water, kind of like the same thing. And then also Pacific Institute, who are our national partners that helps us on more of the resiliency and when thinking about water infrastructure and wastewater infrastructure. We're sending our first draft to them this Friday, but what I would love to do is copy parts of this and share them with you all. But at the end, you all will see the whole piece of the puzzle. You'll see the whole toolkit. But I don't want to overwhelm you guys with different parts of this information at first, but I want to get you all involved with seeing this material, not just seeing it, but like supporting the information that we're trying to bring. 'Cause
Vetting it, you want people to look and see,
Yeah.
what do we need to add to
what we need to add, what we need to take away, what needs, clarified, like for all ends, from like the legal side of things when it comes to your water rights, the local information when it comes to understanding your water system, and then there's one particular part that, I've been very, very supported by Alliance Water Resources when Craig was here, and also now with Todd and Colby, is these fact sheets about our zones. And each zone has its own story when it comes to work, water loss, and everything between. And so, again, this toolkit is for the people of the community. It's for Martin Countyans. And the goal of this is to help bring more education and awareness when it comes to understanding, their water on a local level, and a state level, and a federal level. And I passed out these documents a couple months ago, like giving you a template of what one looks like a few months ago, and I asked for feedback and comment. I know it's been crazy between the floods and the storms and everything in between, so I understand if you did not get a chance to take a glance at this. But this toolkit that I'm creating is based off everything we learn, gather once a month in these board packets, on top of the community-based research I've been doing for roughly almost 4 years, and then on top of the zones and the fact sheets and understanding where your water comes from throughout the community. And the example that we just had today with that one resident, like there's pockets of this information that I feel like could help and support education and awareness when it comes to water.
Yeah.
So,
They need to know that they need an easement.
exactly, that's another glossary term that I'm gonna throw in, I've already made a note about it, what that means and the importance of it on the water and wastewater side. So I already got that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you go to our website, that information's there.
No, I know, but I'm just saying like, this is a kind of broke down version
Yeah.
in layman's terms.
I'll tell you something that frustrates me, and what frustrates me is, the lack of information to the Martin County, public in general, is everyone in the county thinks that the millions of dollars that goes into our systems comes into the district.
Yeah.
And that statement's false. If you look at the dollars, just like right now, we got $13.15 million in projects in 2025 and 2026 plan, right now, that's approved. All that money, whether it be Commonwealth or whether it be federal, it doesn't matter what agency, all that money goes to Big Sandy Ag. Not one penny of that comes to this district. Big Sandy Ag, they oversee the engineering, they oversee the contracts, they oversee the projects. They run those projects. The district doesn't run those projects. The district doesn't see that money. But for some reason, the public thinks that all that money comes into Martin County, and that's false.
And
Not
there's a
one penny
section,
of it does.
there's a section within this toolkit that explains the funding cycles and what that is and what it's like and the different types of funding streams that communities can apply for when it comes to grants. And I can even make a specialized section like what you're mentioning, Tim, about you know, where do our contracts come from, how does the funding work for our community? It's not like you said, we have the funding, it's all controlled by the same yet. And that's an education piece that we are adding to this toolkit as well, to bring a sense of awareness and clarity of how the funding structure is like in a general state level, but also localized for us Martin Countyans of how we are getting our funding to help our system.
It's something that was a shock to me, to be honest with you, on this board. Take the raw water intake project, for example. The district's not even signatory to those contracts. But we didn't sign nothing. Now, how is it that someone can come in to our infrastructure and change it, and we weren't signatory to it? I don't even understand that. But that's what's happening. So, you know, I'm all for getting as much information as we can out to the public. I think that's great. I just wanna make sure that the information we get out there is accurate.
That's what I'm requesting for the board and for the community even as well, if this gets posted on social media, is I want the people's feedback. I want the board's feedback, I want Alliance's feedback, I want Brian's feedback, I want everybody's feedback on this toolkit, because it's for you all, it's for the people. It's not for me, it's not for a fancy deliverable, for a work project,
Right.
this is for the people,
Okay,
so.
good, I'm looking
And I
forward
will
to
take
it.
note of that
Thank
on the
you.
grant funding one. All right, that's all I have for water at this time. I do have a question on wastewater once we get done with executive session.
Okay,
You're
I
still
make a
hopping in
motion
that.
to convene in,
okay, so everyone is, all right, so, a motion to convene into executive session, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Everyone can just stay here, we're gonna go next door here.